Good evening. It's 5 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you remain standing, please. I'd like to observe a moment of silence for retired Fort Myers Chief Marcus, who passed away recently. Thank you. We've all had a chance to look at the agenda for the evening. Any changes or additions to the agenda as listed?
Yes. I believe item 8A under unfinished business should go under number 9, new business. We have not discussed this issue at all, other than in commission comments. I believe this decision should not have approval or disapproval tonight. It's too important of a decision to not have a thorough discussion. You can all do your whatever you want to do on your own, but we come back in July to make a final decision.
We can move it to new business, but I still think it needs to be an actionable item for us.
Sorry.
It still needs to be an actionable item for us this evening?
I disagree.
Okay, you can agree or disagree.
Well,
but
that's fine.
The rest of the board, do we want to see an action item on
Yes.
Item 8A?
I'd like to have that option. anyway.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So we'll move it
Okay.
to new business. We'll make it A,
Okay.
but it will be an actionable item that we can, at our discretion, choose
Yes.
to move forward. With that change, any other changes as noted? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Okay. Restate the agenda items. We'll have public input on non-agenda items. We have 3 items under the consent agenda, which are meeting minutes, general fund checks, and capital improvement checks. The fire chief's report. Unfinished business will be purchase of a higher water vehicle. Under new business, we'll have Commissioner Fleming's item on the battalion chief position, painting and waterproofing Station 32, Station 31, capital asset purchases. And then item D will now be the 25-26 budget review, our first look at the upcoming budget. That will be followed by fire chief remarks, the attorney's report, our commissioner remarks, and then we will adjourn. At this time, is there any public input on non-agenda items at this time? If so, please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Terry Brunson, District 15, DVP. I'll go ahead and, so I can save time, let's give this stuff and pass it down if
Okay.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's a description and stuff of what an incident commander does and what the incident commander as a battalion chief does. So a little information for those of you that want to take a look at it. So with the 3 minutes, those all. Appreciate the time.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So this is a proclamation of no confidence in Fire Chief Scott Worth and Assistant Chief Chris Arminger, issued by the Southwest Florida Professional Firefighters and Paramedics, Local 1826, and the firefighters of the Fort Myers Beach Fire Control District. Whereas the members of the Fort Myers Beach Fire Control District have remained steadfast in their commitment to serving the residents and visitors of our community with professionalism, sacrifice, and pride. Whereas since the appointment of Fire Chief Scott Worth, with the department being plagued by critical leadership failures that have created a toxic work environment, diminished operational readiness, and an undermined public safety. Chief Worth's unilateral decision to eliminate the battalion chief position constitutes a devastating blow to internal morale, professional development, and particularly for those who dedicated years of service to training and education for that position. The removal of highly respected leaders such as Chief Grow and myself, with 33 years of service and 25 years of service, the rank of battalion chief, stands in direct contradiction to the chief's public statements valuing experience and leadership. The decision to eliminate the battalion chief role jeopardizes emergency scene command, hampers the ability to manage complex incidents, and forces company-level officers to assume responsibilities beyond sustainable limits, thereby increasing risks to both firefighters and the public. The dismantling of our command structure undermines the very system designed to ensure the safety and accountability, including the nationally recognized framework like Blue Card. This administration has deliberately obstructed lines of communication between department members and the Board of Fire Commissioners, fostering a culture of secrecy, exclusion, and disconnection from those most affected by the leadership decisions. The longstanding failures in staffing, promotional processes, basic administrative functions have gone unaddressed, despite repeated attempts by personnel to raise concerns through the proper channels. Assistant Chief Arminger's conduct has demonstrated an unwillingness to accept expert feedback and the inability to support or empower field personnel, further damaging morale and operational cohesion. Essential safety protocols and training practices have been ignored or neglected, creating unsafe conditions for new hires and leaving vital equipment uncalibrated, unrepaired, or unavailable for use. The cumulative effect of these leadership failures reflects not isolated errors, but a persistent pattern of neglect. Mismanagement threatens the very foundation of this department and the safety of its residents and visitors. Now therefore be complained that the undersigned members of the Fort Myers Beach Fire Control District do hereby declare that they have no confidence in Fire Chief Scott Worth and Assistant Chief Chris Arminger to continue to effectively manage our department and lead our firefighters. Be it further proclaimed that we call upon the Board of Fire Commissioners to take this statement by its firefighters into account as it considers the future of this department and the leadership necessary to restore accountability, morale, and professional integrity in the department, and ensuring success in achieving our mission to protect and preserve life and property. Be it finally proclaimed that every firefighter remains committed to serving the public with excellence, and that we, the firefighters of Fort Myers Beach, will not stand by idly while the safety of our brothers and sisters and the community is being compromised. On the handout that you have every signature of line personnel minus one to sign this agreement. And I ask that you please take it serious. This is a big thing. Stripping away the incident command system from the fire ground. Ask around. People strive to have incident commanders, to have battalion chiefs. Here we have a fire chief that's stripping that away. That's taken away from us, taken away from the community. But I can say this, that if something happens to one of these firefighters because of that, I hope that you all are criminally held responsible. Thank you.
Any further public comment? All right, thank you. Takes us to the consent agenda. We have 3 items. Any questions, changes, additions? Motion to approve the consent agenda is listed.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Takes us to the chief's report. Chief
Very
Worth.
good. Thank you, Commissioner. So as we enter the 2025 hurricane season, our district continues the preparations and stands ready to respond to any potential weather events that might occur. Over the last quarter, the district has worked with our emergency response partners to rework the fire department geo divisions. The district was partnered with Iona McGregor Fire District as the beach's geo division during declared emergency events. Our recent experiences with Hurricane Helene and Milton showed that we were better suited to work with our neighboring island communities of Sanibel and Captiva. We have formalized these changes, and now our 3 islands are officially the South Islands Geo Division. Just in time for hurricane season, I'd like to welcome aboard Assistant Chief Sullivan, Firefighter Nick Rillo, and Firefighter Chris Prisco. All 3 started in May and are doing well. Chief Sullivan has spent 4 of his first 5 weeks working in the stations and with our response crews, taking time for him to get familiar with us and for our folks to get to know him. Melissa Lucas also joined our team in April. She's our new human resource generalist and has already hit the ground running. She's working on policies and processes related to the HR environment. So to all of our new members, welcome aboard. I'm grateful to have you as part of our team. Fire Station 31 continues to take shape. The second floor is in place and the remaining walls will be completed soon. The underground utility work is in progress, which will allow for the site work and final elevations to start taking shape. At this point, construction is on schedule and in budget. On May 29th, Chief Armiger attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the newly expanded Lee County Emergency Operations Center. He joined Mayor Allers in representing the FNB community at that event. While I was not able to attend, I am told that the new center greatly enhances the county's ability to respond and manage large-scale events. Congratulations to the county on that achievement. And then finally, preparations are well underway for the 4th of July community celebrations, including the parade and fireworks. We look forward to once again engaging with our residents and visitors for this annual tradition. For administration, in May, the district received FEMA reimbursements totaling $25,283 for Hurricane Helene and $126,439 for Hurricane Milton. We expect both projects to be fully closed out within 30 days. Management is working to finalize the proposed budget based on estimated values from the Lee County Property Appraiser's Office. Estimates indicate an increase in district property values of approximately 8%. The Lee County Property Appraiser will certify those values on July 1st, which will begin the 100-day truth and millage process, culminating with the adoption of a millage rate and budget in September. Human Resources continues to pursue grant opportunities. Our HR generalist, Melissa Lucas, is actively preparing applications to support specialized training and bunker gear acquisitions, with deadlines spanning August to November. Updates will be shared as these grants progress. This quarter saw progress in our operational readiness, community engagement, and emergency response effectiveness. Highlights include onboarding additional administrative staff and additional firefighters. Outstanding performance on recent incidents, both fire and EMS, and also district-wide hurricane preparations. District members also received their new firefighting turnout gear from Fire Decks. In April, the district received a new Pierce stock fire engine from the manufacturer. The engine was delivered to the local Pierce Service Center, where equipment is being mounted to prepare the unit for service. Operations members, including Lieutenant Hartman, Engineer Vila, Engineer Martinez, Firefighter Carano, and Firefighter Hernandez, have all participated in helping to plan and design the upfitting and equipment inventory for the new engine. Also in April, the district provided personnel and apparatus over a 4-day period to stand by for the 2025 Southern Zone Open Water Championship swim. That event was held at Lynn Hall Park. I'm happy to say we had no major incidents reported, and the event brought over 400 people to the district. That same weekend, our personnel have participated in the Cruisers Appreciation Day at Bayside Park, which celebrated the FNB mooring field and gave our members engagement opportunities with over 100 members of the community and guests. Our operations members also met with Ryan Murphy from 3M Scott Safety. They were able to review the latest models of breathing air packs available. We're finalizing recommendations and will move forward with the purchase of our new air packs next quarter. Below you'll see the chart of our runs for the quarter. Breakdown there, and I can answer any questions if you have any on the different numbers. The next page is the monthly calls for service by unit. You can see a breakdown there with Rescue 33, Truck 33, Engine 32, the Battalion Chief, and support vehicle. Any questions on those numbers? Under training, the graphic illustrates the number of training hours recorded. And in May, some of our Operations Command staff participated in the FEMA NIMS 305 course for Type 3 All Hazards Incident Management. The experience of the instructors and the high level of student participation made this an excellent development opportunity, especially ahead of hurricane season. Likewise, in preparation for upcoming promotional opportunities, we have seen a large uptick from our firefighters taking advanced incident management training courses such as the ICS 300 which is Intermediate Incident Command for expanding incidents, and ICS 400, Advanced Incident Command for Command and General Staff. Finally, FMB members participated in an EMS cooperative training event focusing on a PIC crew CPR initiative. A special occurrence to note for June regarding training and operations: after a mobile home fire incident occurred this month in Bayside Estates, a training opportunity was recognized. Traditionally, the June training calendar reserves an opportunity for the battalion chiefs and company officers to target training specific to their crews based on observations of performance from previous months. We're taking this opportunity to train on water supply management in this neighborhood, most of which have no fire hydrants. We're refreshing our knowledge and skills on a specialized piece of equipment known as TurboDraft. This piece of equipment allows the fire trucks to extract water from a static source, in this case, the canals within the community. For life safety, you can see our revenues for the quarter. Fort Myers Beach, between plan review, permitting, and inspections, brought in about $86,000. Our plan review services to our neighboring communities of South Trail, San Carlos, Lehigh, and Captiva brought in about another $40,000. Some development and redevelopment projects that we wanted to highlight was the Myers Side Resort. We've seen first look at that. Salty Crab, FMB Strong, the Lighthouse Resort, the Lucky Screw, the Goods, Estero Beach Club, Lynn Hall Park, the Beach Theater, and 1901 Estero Plaza. For short-term rentals, Life Safety had 74 inspections in the quarter and 53 new registrations during the same period. That's good news. It seems we have more units coming back online. And June activity is indicating a continuing upward trend. For community outreach, our Life Safety folks taught 4 CPR AED classes and installed 2 child car seat installations. And then under Life Safety highlights, Jen and her team are actively working to review and update the district's fee schedule. We should have that for you next month. We also participated in the FMB Library grand opening, and we are currently planning for the 4th of July events and for providing public safety support. And then finally, for district anniversaries, I'd like to recognize Jane Thompson with 19 years, Darwin Adamus with 11 years, and John Nichols, firefighter paramedic, with 1 year. That completes my report.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any questions on the chief's report?
I have 2 minor questions. We're buying a Scott air mask.
The decision
I mean,
hasn't been made on the brand, but this
Well,
particular
I mean-
brand was Scott Air Packs.
Well, the person that was with Scott.
Scott Safety, yes.
Okay. So we're getting something brand new,
Yes,
stated.
state of the art.
Okay. At Bayside, I know you've told me this before. How much are the, whatever it is that can extract water from the canal?
The cost?
No, how many gallons per minute is that?
The turbo drafts will do somewhere between 400 and 500 is about the capacity.
Okay. Right, thank you. Oh, one last. Community development, where's the Lucky Screw? I haven't heard about that place.
That's right there at Hurricane Pass Bridge.
The old Naughty Parrot.
The old Naughty Parrot, thank you.
Oh, I thought it was a vacant lot.
It is
Okay.
right now.
It is.
Okay.
It's in development.
All right, thank you.
Well, that makes sense.
Those
Yeah.
projects were all in development, the ones I read.
Chief, I have a couple of
That's why we haven't found that.
How long have we had the turbo draft?
I've been here 8 years and we've had them at least 8 years.
Was there a reason we needed to up training on it, or an incident that happened?
It wasn't deployed for this particular event. Tank water ended up being used to fight this fire.
But all the crews are up to speed now, or in the process?
Up to speed or getting up to speed.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Comments? All right. On to unfinished business, we have one item, and that's the purchase of a high water vehicle. Back to you, Chief.
Thank you. So, slides. So last month when we talked about our high water package, we were working on some different options. So the first part of that is last month we decided we would actively work to put a lift kit and tires on one of our vehicles. and also obtain a inflatable boat, motor, and trailer, same package that the USAR team is using. Those projects are both underway. And then the last piece of the high water complement, we've looked at different vehicles, including the military vehicles, to a price tag of between $200,000 and $360,000. We considered amphibious vehicles, and then recently was able to go out to forestry and look at a high water vehicle that they had recently obtained. It's made by this company, which is Beast Enterprises. They're a local company. You access them from North Fort Myers, but they're in Charlotte County technically. And they're building these high water vehicles with firefighting capability, which makes them a unique vendor. They're building for forestry, Sheriff's Office in Lee and Collier County, City of Naples, Fish and Wildlife, DEP. So they have experience with these government vehicles. They've met all the state purchasing requirements. So this vehicle will give us about 3.5 feet of water fording capability. It'll have between 100 and 125 gallons of tank water on it with a pump and a hose reel for doing some small firefighting. It will have some form of cover on it. You don't see that in the picture here, but it'll have some cover with some sides to protect us from the weather. So this vehicle is a $94,000 vehicle. It's custom made, and it will be available next season. So for this season, we will have our truck and boat and trailer. And in addition, I talked last meeting about the USAR team and how they have upped the response, and they now automatically bring up 2 of the truck and trailer deployments and pre-stage those when we know we have a storm coming our way. So,
Questions?
You answered my question, which is what are we gonna have for this season?
yes, yeah.
It's going to have some sort of canopy.
Yes, so it'll have a heavy duty. They use bimini tops on them, and we're going to look at the wind requirements, and if it's a bimini top, it'll have isinglass to give us protection on the sides. And this vehicle will hold somewhere between 6 and 8 civilians and a couple operators.
And it can be used in conjunction or can be pulled apart and used in different pieces as necessary.
It's all inclusive. So
Right.
the tank is, on this one, you can see in the back, that black box in the back, that's actually a water tank. And so there's a pump and reel on the back of that one. I can't remember who they were building this one for, but it would be all inclusive.
And is that 2 pieces that are attached together? Or
They're 2 separate buggies.
2 separate buggies?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So, 2 separate buggies. This is a smaller vehicle. They make a bigger model, which some of the agencies are getting. The thing about this one is this one will turn around in a 40-foot radius, so in a cul-de-sac, it maneuvers pretty well. And the other thing is it'll fit on a standard 8-foot wide car trailer, which we're going to include with it down the road. And that would allow it to be, if the USAR team chose to use it for deployments, it'd be available for that service too.
And this vehicle is good to what depth?
About 3.5 feet.
Do they test it in moving water at all or just standing water?
Well, moving water, standing water, yeah. So that's one of the things you see the tires on here. We're going with a narrower tire with a little less aggressive tread so that we don't have the risk of buoyancy. They build others with wide tires to be in the swamp, and they have issues with floating and
Yeah,
and
'cause-
tilting. So that
because we
it'll have
saw-
narrower tires.
I mean, we saw moving water. I
Yes.
mean, we don't have standing water. We've got to count on it moving somewhere and it pushes,
Right.
so.
What's the powertrain?
That one will have a small block in it, Chevrolet.
Four-wheel
and
drive?
Four-wheel drive, yep. Yeah, it's
All-time four-wheel, or is that switching?
It's all time, but on these smaller ones, they do use a limited slip, so it functions better on the roads.
And automatic, I know that was
It is automatic, yes.
the question a while back. The days of stick shift are long behind us, I think, unfortunately.
Thing, but
Those of us who learned.
Yeah.
All right. With that, do we have a motion for approving the purchase of one of the Beast Enterprises buggies in the amount of $94,000 and providing the chief with an allowance not to exceed 5% of the purchase price for unforeseen expenses?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion. Ron?
No.
No? Jim?
Looks like a good vehicle for us.
It is.
For our particular situation.
I think it's, our best value for the money you get into this kind of asset. Having seen the price tags on some of the others, this is, hopefully we can never use it would be the goal. So we're getting something that, like the rest of our equipment, in case of emergency, which is our business.
If I have one more question, you have concept idea of where this particular unit would live?
Likely, we're gonna have several underbuilding parking spots at the new station. So my thought process is this could occupy one of those spaces. We're
Okay.
running outlets to those areas so that we
Keep it charged up
We can
and
charge
ready
it
to
if
go.
we need to keep it on charge.
Anything else? Public input on the high water vehicle. Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
New business. Commissioner Fleming, you've got the first item on the battalion chief position.
I prefer to go last because after this discussion, I think I don't want to talk about painting and waterproofing.
Okay, we can certainly do that. So we'll move
Thank
the battalion chief on to the last item on new business.
Thank you, sir.
Painting and waterproofing of Station 32. Back to you, chief.
Thank you. So at Station 32, we've had some persistent water issues at that station. We've recently we've had to put covers over our vent inlets on the building, which was done by Crowther Roofing. At the same time, I had them do some water testing for leaks that we were getting in the wall above the windows. We were originally thinking we were getting that water in from the awnings on the building that are through bolted to the wall. What Crowther found is that the expansion joints and the decorative trims are where the water was coming in. So we reached out to vendors and got pricing, and in front of you, you have coastal painting contractors, and their contract is for $21,600, and we're going to do this in 2 phases. They're going to do the waterproofing and all the sealing of the environment. They're going to water test it before we put the final paint coat on, or coat of paint. So we had coastal in there. They were $21,000. The next closest bid was 30 plus thousand. So this will take them. They're ready to start pretty quick, and this will take probably at least a week, maybe for each phase.
When was that put on, that roof? 'Cause I see
We
it's-
just had the roof done. It's not the roof that's leaking. So we're actually getting these leaks on the 2nd floor, not the 3rd floor. The roof was put on by Crowther
Right, that's what I thought.
less than a year ago. It's
That's
not
what
the
I
roof.
thought, yeah.
So it's the joints and the walls that you see all the decorative
Mhm.
lines. Most of those are plastic or they're metals. And in this case, we got a few where the joint comes down right at the corner of the window, and the water's getting in between the stucco and the wall, and making it into the window frame.
And that's from original construction, or do you think that's?
Yeah, the buildings were built in '09. And we just had the building painted. The paint on the building isn't more than about 7 years old, I think.
Mhm.
But we've got to do this waterproofing and of all of these control joints,
Do you
expansion
think-
joints.
Do you think any of that is from any of the storms that came through, that moved the building, rocked the building?
I don't believe it moved the building. We were chasing a few other leaks years back, and we found those, and Trevor had taken care of some of those. So I think it's the design of the building. We are incorporating into the new station some lessons learned. So before any of the bands or stucco, the decorative control joints are put on, the contractor is having to do the waterproofing you see around all the windows and door openings. So they'll have to lay out their bands and there'll be waterproofing of those surfaces before they put their trim on.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? No. Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
The motion to approve $21,600 to cover the painting on the station, including 5% on a variance. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion, question, public input. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. All right, back to another station. Chief, Station 31 capital assets.
So the part of the budget to review tonight is to just go over the intended capital asset purchases for the upcoming year. So there's not a lot of them, but I will run through them. So in the budget for the construction of the station. Our portion of that is 3.358 million, and we anticipate that to be expended in the next calendar year. We're also working off the 9 million that the state provided in grant money. At Station 3, we have a scheduled replacement of our large air conditioner. That's a 10-ton unit, and the price tag on that, we have budgeted at $20,700. The MagnaGrip system is the vehicle exhaust systems that hook to the trucks and take the exhaust out of the buildings. This system is for the new fire station. We split out some of the larger ticket items that we could do direct purchases on and save the tax dollars for. So we're working directly with the vendor on this purchase. We have $100,000 for the high water vehicle in the budget. For the boat and trailer, we have $25,000. We have a rescue truck in there of $150,000. And we're looking at our operational response plan for Station 1 and marrying up the rescue truck with the ladder truck in order to create a more efficient response plan out of Station 1. The ATV that we lost in Hurricane Ian, there's $90,000 in there to replace that. We were waiting to replace that till we knew we had the bay at the station. So we're looking at that purchase next year. And then the next four are replacement for the Ford F-150s. I believe these are mostly the fire inspectors. So we're replacing 4 of those of our pickup trucks.
How long have we had those, Chief?
They're 2018s. They're 2018.
Reducing those. Okay. Is that pretty standard for?
It is, and the other thing is that it gives us some residual value when we go to trade them in. So the price tag, if you look at the price tag, it's $70,000. There's a big part of that is doing the upfitting, the lights, the light sirens, radios, and everything that go into these vehicles. So it often can be 50% or more of the cost of the actual vehicle itself. Under other equipment, we have our Station 31 gear washer and dryer. This will add a gear washer and dryer. The district will go from 1 set to 2 sets, $32,480 for those pieces. And then the 27 air packs, we're not sure if we'll be able to complete that purchase in this year, so we're showing them in the budget for next year. It's carry over $360,000.
Is that a washer dryer for each station?
No, that's the fire gear washing and dryer systems for the fire gear, but we have one at Station 32 on the mainland.
You already have
This will
one.
give us a second one.
second
Right
one.
now, everybody has to go to the mainland station to wash
Gotcha.
gear. And on the medical side, we're doing some upgrades to our medical equipment. Ventilators, E700 ventilators at a cost of $16,600. And we have one zone monitor that was damaged, took water damage, and it's a replacement cost of $40,000. And that is our heart monitor and the machine that does the 12 lead EKGs, things of that nature. Under radios, we have one mobile radio and 3 portable radios. We have the Station 31 alerting system. That price tag of $60,000 includes the speakers, all the infrastructure for the fire station that allows us to get our tones. And that completes. We have Station 32. We have a replacement of elliptical in there at $6,200. So for our capital expenditures for the upcoming year, we have $4.625 million. Most of that being for the fire station itself.
Right now, you're looking for the 200 for the Station 31 capital assets to be approved, is that correct?
I'm sorry.
The 200,000 for the capital assets is the motion one.
Sorry.
It's all right, sir. You got a lot of numbers. We kind of skipped around with
Sorry about
some of
that.
the agenda items.
Yes, so this agenda item is for purchase of these assets that I just read off related to the station. So in order to not come back to you with every single one of these and the timeframes when we need to acquire them, what you have in front of you is capital asset purchases in a not to exceed amount of $200,000.
Okay.
And that will incorporate the MagnaGrip, the washing machine and dryer, and the other, what was the other one we had? All the radio
Radios.
for the station.
Great.
Thank you.
Questions on capital assets for 31? Do we have a motion to approve?
No, yes, I have one.
Yes, sir.
In Station 1, you said you're putting in a rescue truck?
We were looking at a,
What's a rescue truck?
so it's a non-transport response vehicle that can run and do medical calls.
Oh,
And instead of, if the ladder truck
Like
ends
a
up.
Tahoe or
Something
something
like
with
that, yeah.
stuff.
We're looking at a pickup truck or something like that. So that vehicle will allow us to not run the ladder truck to Elemental Post.
Good.
That's a good idea.
Any other questions?
No.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve $200,000 for the capital assets for Station 31?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Do we have a
I
second?
don't know.
Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Was that table, was that into the table?
I know. Questions, discussions? Anything else? Public input? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. All right, we already had the intro to the budget review. Anything else you'd like to add to it, Chief?
No, you want me to read the
Yeah.
categories
Hit the
again?
highlights real
All right.
quick.
You did a very
So-
fine job the first
So in
time.
all the detail I gave you on the last agenda item,
Yeah.
construction in progress, $3.358 million, $327. Total building improvements, which is the air conditioner at 33 Magna Grip, $77,700. Replacement of rolling equipment, $647,740. Total suppression equipment, $392,480. Total medical equipment, $56,600. And then total communication equipment, $86,730. And then furniture and fixtures and equipment, $6,200 for a total of $4.625,770.
Outstanding. Thank you. All right, so that gets us all the way through our new business items and back to Commissioner Fleming's item, I believe, on the battalion sheet. Mr. Fleming.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm disappointed I have to say what I'm going to be saying. I'll just get right to the point, and then we'll have discussion. And I think this is a bad decision, and I'll get to why. You all know me as a commissioner on the Fort Myer Beach Fire Control Special District. Some of you know what my previous career was, or not. Well, I'm going to introduce myself, what I used to do. I was hired in 1974, or appointed in 1974 as a firefighter with the Dayton, Ohio Fire Department. It's a Rust Belt city. We were big. We had almost 280,000 people. We ran, I think it was, when I was a rookie, a lot. 20 engines, 8 trucks, and all kinds of other stuff. We were busy, very, very busy. Of those, and I retired in 2011. 35 of the years that I spent on the job, I was on the street. The only 2 years I was not on the street, I was the department's training supervisor. That entailed such things as the entire training development for the department. And I was a captain then, and we were still pretty big. Other than that, I spent 25 years as an incident commander. Now, I know my experience doesn't compare to this. We're an island community, and Dayton was very busy. When I was promoted to a district chief, our minimum staffing was 101. I had half of that. I believe I had somewhere around 75 people assigned to me. I split my responsibilities with the other side. The city was split in half. It's 57 square miles. We were busy. When I was promoted, I may have said this, we had 14 engines, 6 ladders, 1 rescue, 6 medics. I had half of that. As far as my formal education, I have a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. I have a Master of Public Administration, both from the University of Dayton. I am a Fellow of the National Fire Academy. That is a program that was started in '84 and they disbanded it in '86. It was very intense. You were there for 10 weeks, which is a long time. I don't know if this is correct, but I'll compare the National Fire Academy to the FBI Academy. It's training, 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 administration, you know, upper level incident command. I mean, I had in one class, the incident or the instructor, he was the borough chief of Brooklyn, and the other guy was the borough chief of Manhattan, and they hated each other. Well, you know, yeah, it was crazy, but it was fun. It was a good thing, but it was disbanded after a while. It was too long to be away from home, and they found that out. I was also a instructor of fire science technology at a local community college. For 4 years, I taught Incident Command 101 and 201. Additionally, as far as what I've done over my career, I've been disposed a couple times. I've testified in court as to my knowledge of incidents. As a district chief over 25 years, I went to many. I have no idea how many. I know people who kept journals. I didn't. I went to some very tragic, sad incidents. And sometimes they were funny, you know, but not often. I've seen a lot of death. And that's it, you know. Hopefully you never experience this, even once. As I said, I've been to many, many fires. My definition of a working fire is that there are 2 hand lines off, 1 3/4, that's what we used, and a 5-inch supply is down. If the 5-inch supply isn't charged, I don't count that as an incident. Of those, I have no idea, hundreds. Incident command is critical to the safety of the entire scene, just as much as it is in a Rust Belt city that has rivers and lakes and trains and plants and a lot of there's a lot of poor, indeed. The incident commander is key to what we do. The duties of incident commander is not for a company commander. A captain cannot do the job, in my opinion, learned opinion, of a captain. To me, I just can't wrap my head around this. Now, fire scenes are noisy, and they're loud, and they're exciting, and it looks like chaos to the civilian. I mean, you got smoke and fire and people screaming, and I've had jumpers. You know, you don't want jumpers, but that's besides the point. People see what's going on, civilian. They're like, "What? This is crazy." Well, I want to explain an analogy of what an incident commander does. We all know landscapers. Landscapers come out, and there might be 8 or 10 of them, depending on which landscapers are coming up. They show up. This guy mows. This guy trims trees. This guy likes to move rocks. And there's like 5 or 6 different crews, and they're all doing what they're doing. And they have a foreman. Think of the foreman of the landscapers as the incident commander. At the scene of a fire, The firefighters know what they need to do. You know, the first end does this, the second end does that. And, you know, in Dayton, we had SOPs that spell that out. But just think of it as the incident commander is the landscaper. And they have a foreman. And the foreman says, all right, you guys, you know what you're doing, do it. You guys know what you're doing, do it. And the foreman keeps an eye on everything and makes sure the job is done. That in a nutshell is how I can compare to the uninformed who see fire trucks. That's how it is. I know my decision as incident commander saved lives. I know that for a fact. I like to think I never caused a serious injury or a death due to any of my decisions. I believe that too. I never had a serious injury to anyone I was in command of over 25 years as a district chief who suffered a serious injury. In fact, the most serious injury anyone I was involved with happened to me. It was a fire late at night, you know, it was a big 2.5-story, burned the shit out of it. It was out, or it was going to come out. And there was a vacant lot. I stepped into an open pit that was a metal housing for a water meter. And I ended up with a very bad cut that became infected, and I was in the hospital for a week. That's the most serious injury I ever encountered of anyone that I was involved with. Now, when I'm finished, Chief Worth is going to tell you that battalion chiefs are underutilized. My question is why? Why don't they have something to do? What are their efficiency ratings? I mean, are they good? Are they bad? Did they ever do something you wanted them to do, but they didn't? My experience in Dayton, district chiefs were given, you know, you say they're underutilized, I don't know. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But the district chiefs, and there were 2 per shift, we shared the city, we were given assignments. 2 assignments that I was given and completed, I put in service, coordinated, and wrote the specs for an underwater dive team. We trained 30 people, all at one house. There were individuals who didn't want to do the dive training, which is fine. You know, they were transferred out. People who wanted to do it were transferred in. After we were finished, and I took all the training. When we were finished, we were all certified as open water divers, which is, you know, jump in the lake. I did that. I wrote the specs for the vehicle. I did not continue on to become a dive rescue person, but we did. We had a dive rescue. We saved a lot of cars, but never a person. Another job I was given was to coordinate an ALS bicycle team. Dayton used to have, well, they still do. They have a lot of festivals. They close the streets. So we put together a team of everybody, another double house, everybody that was there was trained to ride a bicycle. The training was given by a Dayton police officer. Dayton had the first bicycle team in the country. And now everybody has a bicycle team. We did everything that the bike cops do except jump off your gun and shoot. Now, one day we were able to go to their range and they supplied all the ammunition. That was good. But I think give our district chiefs something like that to do. If they don't do it, well, then why? Chief will tell you that there are barrier islands near us that don't have battalion chiefs. That's their choice. You know, the chief from Sanibel, you know, I read his letter. I disagree with like 90% of what he said. My concern is not Sanibel. If they think they can do what they want to do, well, my concern is you and the residents and the visitors who come here. If Sanibel wants to roll the dice, which I think they're taking a chance, because you have to have someone in charge who knows what everybody's doing, and everybody who's there knows who it is, and they know where to find them. And it's the basis of incident command. To have, I know, you know, the administrative chiefs, you take turns coming out at night. Maybe we'll get in a guy from Iona, but if he's on a call, who's coming? Well, one of you guys. And you're at least, I don't know where you live, but 20 minutes, if you're, I mean, you're probably 20 minutes out at the most, Chief Armiger. I just think it's wrong. As the incident command, I hope you've all had an opportunity to read it. Just want to point out a couple of the highlights. All right. I mean, it's only 16 pages. You know, it started in California. It's been adopted pretty much everywhere. A couple highlights. Unity of command. Each individual participating in the operations reports to only one supervisor. This eliminates potentials for individuals to receive conflicting orders from a variety of supervisors, thus increasing accountability, preventing freelancing, improving the flow of information, helping with the coordination of operational efforts, and enhancement of occupational safety. This is fundamental to the ICS chain of command. Now, I'll go back to when I was a firefighter, and we beat a big fire. And we had what was called a deluge gun. It was a giant piece of brass that probably weighed 300 pounds, and it put out 500 pounds. So we'd be sitting there squirting the hose and whatever, and Chief Michaels would come by. Hey, move that over here. Okay, Chief. So we would move it over there. And 5 minutes later, here comes Chief Brown. Hey, put this over here. Well, Chief Michael said, don't you worry about Chief Michael. So we did. And 10 minutes later, here comes Chief Michael again. So, I mean, that unity of command prevents that. Incident commander. This, I mean, you've all read it. I'm not going to read it to you. It's on page, well, it talks about most incidents require an incident command, a single incident commander. These are minor incidents. Well, not minor if it's your house on fire, but unified command. And I've done this twice. A unified command involves two or more individuals sharing the authority normally held by a single incident commander. The reason we did this, I was the incident commander of the largest residential fire in Dayton in like 50 years. It was it was on 2 different streets, and Dayton has giant alleys and driveways, but there's alleys everywhere, and we have a lot of water, which is good. We had 8 houses, I believe 8 garages, multiple cars. and they were all going like hell, you know. And at that incident, it was back-to-back streets, Kenwood and Kenilworth. When the second chief arrived, we split command. In that, I said, Tim, you got Kenilworth. Whatever it is you need, it's a separate incident. It's yours. I'm going to stay command over here. And because it was just too much for me. It was too much for one person. It looked like it looked like a tanker truck of gasoline had overturned. It was kids playing with Roman candles, started a garage fire, and we damn near burned down the whole neighborhood. So, you know, that's an incident command. I was also involved in a 400 level ICS. That was a large Franklin Iron and Metal. It was they had an 8-story pile of crushed cars, thousands of them. Well, it caught fire, and it wasn't going out. I mean, this was full-blown ICS. I became the fire commander. Well, in the bus was the EPA, the city manager, the mayor, a weather guy, all kinds of people. And we couldn't put it out. I mean, we had the Air Force come and they squirted foam. We had a vendor show up with foam. That didn't work. Eventually, I had to get on the bus, and this was maybe 30 hours into the incident. I told the chief and all the people, we are not going to put this fire out. We just can't. And we were near a well field. And I suggested, and they agreed, I said, let's stop pouring millions of gallons of water on this. We can't put it out. We've tried. We just can't do it. There was a baseball game downtown, the toxic smoke. They had to cancel a night baseball game. Well, I'm passionate about this. I think what we're doing is incorrect. I will suggest, since it appears this is coming to a conclusion tonight, but I'm going to throw out something different. We're hiring a bunch of people, 3 lieutenants. We're going to post for some for the new station.
We have 4 vacancies right now. With these changes being made, if the 2 battalion chiefs take 2 of the company officer spots, there'll be 2 remaining.
All right. Well, if we don't do that, I would suggest when you do post vacancies for lieutenants or captains or whatever we have, post a position for district chief. Fill the vacancy. Negotiate to bring this to a conclusion. If you have district chiefs who don't want to do the assignments they're given, well, it's time to start a paper trail, something that probably should have happened 10 years ago. I mean, before I was even on the board, I've heard about the VCs, blah, blah, blah. You've all heard. My thought is, why? Why have people been bitching about this position for 10 years and nothing's been done? Whose fault's that? I don't know. I'd like to know. And I'm going to add this. Should your plan go through, Chief Worth, you're going to have a brand new crew of X number of people. We're going to have a new firehouse. And everything's looking good. Instead, I fear that we will have, and I'll add before I get to that, you have a chance to change the culture of this department. You have a chance to make this department look forward and not appear to be petty and vindictive. You will have X number of new people. They will be distributed among the stations, and they're all gung-ho. But after being in the firehouse for a while with nearly everyone voting a vote of no confidence on you, which I wish you hadn't have done, but you did, I get it, that eventually those people are going to be soured too. I mean, they're going to be surrounded by people who signed the petition, and through no fault of their own, well, some. It's just, you have a chance to change this. You can negotiate with the union. You can give people, like me, for example, if I had a choice, because we're not the only people hiring, everybody wants to know. Everybody needs firefighters. They need paramedics. They have people, we're not the only, everybody. Without, you have a chance to change the whole projection. I just hope you listen and do it. The writing's on the wall. I'm doing my best. I think it's wrong. Are we getting applicants? I mean, how many people, how long have we been posted for fire medics? How long have we been locked in?
When we post, we get applicants and we.
Valid
interview 'em.
applicants.
Yeah, we just hired 2 recently.
All right, well, can you hire 2 more within a couple weeks? Or do we anticipate having X number of positions filled by?
Yeah, we were planning to post the opening and take applications, and then we have to do interviews,
Right.
background checks. You can't bring somebody on in 2 weeks. But
No.
We have a timeline from now to when the station's slated to
Okay.
open to get the people on board that we need.
Okay. Well. I hope I didn't rant. I don't think I
Maybe a
can.
touch. Maybe a touch.
I can. Oh, you want to hear a rant?
Chief, would you like to state the district's position with all respect for Ron's experience?
Yes.
And I do appreciate his insight and his comments.
So the first thing I'd like to say is I appreciate that you've been
Thank you.
forthcoming from the beginning. We've had
Yes.
some good conversations, and I'm trying to understand your opposition. I'm talking to you, but we've had this conversation, so I'm having it for the sake of the audience.
Right.
I had the chance to look at Dayton, Ohio versus Fort Myers Beach and, other agencies in our county.
Right.
So up on the screen, I kind of broke down the complexity of Dayton, trying to understand your perspective, and you're absolutely right. Dayton, Ohio is 57 square miles. Fort Myers Beach is 6 square miles. Dayton currently, and this is 23 or 24 data, but running 326 employees versus Fort Myers Beach at 65 employees. Dayton's running 12 fire stations. They're still running. You're calling them district chiefs, but they're the same job as our battalion chiefs. So they're running 12 fire stations, 40,000 calls. Both agencies are transporting. Dayton's running 2 fire boats, the regional hazmat team.
No, we don't have fire boats. We have 2 Zodiacs.
Got it. Okay.
It's not a fire boat.
Okay. Regional hazmat team,
Yes.
technical rescue services.
Oh, yeah, everything.
Yeah, and then community paramedicine. I didn't know about the bike program, but currently they're showing the community paramedicine program. So Fort Myers Beach is 3 stations. We're currently 2,300 calls. It's not fair to say that's our normal call volume. Our normal call volume before Ian was about 3,400 a year. We do fire, EMS, and we do medical transport. To look a little further at Dayton, there are interstates that are going through Dayton, Ohio. There are multiple interstates. A vast railway system. The red titles up there are freight yards. They're exchange yards. There are multiple navigable waterways, and these train systems are all passing over these waterways. You got military bases close by. This is a complex organization, and to be able to manage half of that, 26, 27 miles of response area, is admirable. And the thing to remember is that it's nobody's fault here that we don't have that complexity. It's not anybody's fault on the agency that we don't have railways, we don't have interstates, industrial areas. It's just the complexity of our district and who we are. Dayton, Ohio, 85 is running 85 responders on shift per day, and they're being overseen by 2 battalion chiefs. Those 2 battalion chiefs are managing 16 company officers between them. They're also managing, those company officers are managing 67 firefighters. So Fort Myers Beach, we're running 16 responders a day. We are running 3 company officers in the system that I'm proposing, 3 drivers and 10 firefighters. For staffed employees at Dayton supporting those operational procedures, you've got 47 staff, 40-hour positions at Dayton, Ohio, including 18 uniformed officers. Those uniformed officers are 7 uniformed chiefs. There's 5 uniformed captains, 6 uniformed lieutenants, a fire marshal, and 9 uniformed firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, all doing 40-hour jobs in support of Dayton's operations. There's also 19 sworn personnel. And I think it's interesting to note, coming from the city of Fort Myers, coming from a city, is that being an independent district is very different than being part of the city. Part of the city, you have a purchasing department, you have an engineering department, you have procurement, you have legal, you have support beyond just what the fire department is doing. For us and our agency, we wear all those hats. Most of the time, we have Attorney Salzman when we need him, but for Fort Myers Beach, we're running 17 staff, and that includes 5 uniformed chiefs, 1 fire marshal, 3 uniform inspectors, and 8 non-sworn, 1 of those being a part-time. If we were Dayton, Ohio, so when I looked at Dayton, Ohio, the thing that was interesting about it is, and I looked at half of Dayton, Ohio, 6 stations, battalion chief, boat, railways, industrial areas and stuff, they reminded me of my old department. When I left there, we were 6 stations, regional hazmat team. We have railways, we have the waterfront with fire boats, 20,000 calls a year. So it was very similar to half of Dayton, if you will. And I think what this highlighted for me was that if we were Dayton, Ohio, if we were the city of Fort Myers, I wouldn't be making these changes to our organization. But the reality is that Fort Myers Beach is not the same agency as either of those. We're a 3-station department. We don't have the highways. I've already talked about this. We are fire, we are EMS, and we're transport. And we do it well. And I think that's a key point. As Chief Brunson said earlier, our company officers know how to do their job, and our folks do serve this community well. So looking at the position itself, I want to break that down a bit, and these are the slides and the information that we provided to the battalion chiefs for why we were doing this. We brought all the staff in and we...
Just looking.
Sorry.
No.
Sorry. So we brought everybody in and we went through basically the dissection of the battalion chief role, if you will. So the battalion chiefs work on a 3-shift rotation. They each work a 24-hour shift, which means if you work on Monday and Thursday this week, you work Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday next week, you work Tuesday, Friday the 3rd week, and then you start over. So when you look at uptime and standby time in that 7-day period, the battalion chiefs collectively amongst the 3 of them are working 40 business hours a week. The rest of the time, 128 hours, is spent on standby waiting to respond to emergencies. So to break down the battalion chief's job duties, a large part of what they do is either managerial or administrative in nature. The duties that are performed Monday to Friday during the hours of 8 to 4 include managing daily staffing, picking up and dropping off supplies, packing and shipping tools that need to go out for repair. They serve as a liaison between the administration and their shifts. They're responsible for performance management of subordinates, behavior management of subordinates, scheduling, building pre-plans. They're responsible for conducting training evolutions, ensuring reports and other documentation is completed properly and on time, accident investigations when they happen, and then responding to emergency incident management. And then after hours, the other 128 hours, they're on standby in case there's any kind of accident that needs to be investigated. And they're also on standby for emergency incident management. So currently, and before August 1st of this year, we have 6 chief officers. We have 3 administrative chief officers, and then we have 3 battalion chief officers. So those administrative officers are coming to work 40 hours a week and providing at least 40 hours of administrative work. The 3 battalion chiefs collectively are working their shifts, and between the 3 of them also providing another 40 hours of work. After the reorganization, we will have 5 chief officers, which they are all 40-hour positions. The 3 shifts will answer to a 40-hour operations chief, and that will provide us with 500 hours of work each week during business hours. So about 3 years ago, we were working with the battalion chiefs, and they were having to work mandatory overtime. So when we did the last contract, we made some adjustments collectively with the battalion chiefs, and we agreed that if the battalion chief was going to be ordered for overtime and they didn't want to come in, that we would instead implement a different response plan. So when the battalion chief vehicle was shut down, we would put a 4th person on the vehicle of the senior officer. The purpose for that is that when that vehicle arrives at scene, there are still 2 folks in addition to the vehicle operator that can carry out firefighting tasks. The company officer on the vehicle could then start and be in incident command if needed, or until another officer arrived. We've been doing this for 3 years. We've been working this system. Wholly 1/3 of the time, by coincidence, it's exactly 1/3 of the time. So for a full year, the district has not had a battalion chief vehicle in service of the last 3 years.
Is that because you didn't fill Jay Clam's position?
During that time,
Well, you were running short in that position, right?
during that time, we have had incidents that have had to be managed. We have seen no detriment to our operations. Nothing that's been brought forward by the union, by the staff, that we're doing anything unsafe, that this isn't working, until the time we announced the elimination of the battalion chief position. So we've been doing the system that we're looking to carry forward with after August 1st. We've been doing it 1/3 of the time. We're now just going to do it 100% of the time.
Commissioner, may I speak?
Sir? If it's brief, please.
Yes, I'll keep. I just want to address some of those things that Chief Worth.
We're not going to get into debate, Chief Buck.
What's that?
It's not going to be a debate.
No, I'm not going to debate.
You'll have a chance to speak once the board has a discussion, if it's on facts. Go ahead, Chief.
Just point out facts, that's all.
So we talk about, okay, how many emergency responses are being done after hours or outside of business hours? And so this slide is showing that in the hours from 4 p.m. to 8 a.m., Monday to Friday, and then on weekends, what we're finding is that we're going about, on average, about 4 days between a battalion chief call for service or response. It's important to keep in mind that not every call the battalion chief goes on requires incident command. It's actually a small fraction of the number of calls that they're actually responding to. Yeah. So, the fiscal impact to the taxpayers. Right now, the 3 battalion chiefs, their wages collectively for the 3 positions are $450,000 approximately, with a total cost for those 3 members of $723,000. An administrative chief officer, the same 40 hours of work for 1/3 of the cost. It's important to keep in mind when the battalion chief position is eliminated, the district will backfill those 3 positions with 3 firefighters. So instead of having 12 supervisors on shift managing 36 employees, we'll have 9 supervisors on the 3 shifts managing 39 employees. The purpose for that is to keep the effective response force the same We're running 16 positions per shift. When the new stations open and we're fully staffed, we will still be at 16 positions per shift when the station is open and we're fully staffed.
So if you have
In
three
addition-
equal officers.
Sir, can you please maintain order?
Please.
Chief
No,
speaker.
you can eject me if you want, but this is.
I'd rather
long,
not, but if you would please,
long,
if you have
long.
public comment, there'll be a time for
I'll
it.
be more than happy to speak tonight.
In addition to the 3 firefighters that will be put in service to replace the battalion chiefs, there will also be a 40-hour position added that will be able to handle the logistical work being done by the battalion chiefs. So right now, when our staff has a truck break down and they have to move into a reserve truck, it'll take a half a day for our staff to take that vehicle to the fleet halfway across town. We can use 40-hour members to do that. We can leave our firefighters in district where they can be doing pre-plans, training, and other items related to emergency response. And we're currently working to activate or automate the timekeeper system to take the timekeeper portion of the battalion chief's duties, take care of that piece. So in doing this, there's been a lot of discussion about these people being terminated. The battalion chiefs were provided with 2 options. Both battalion chiefs are either already retired or eligible for retirement. The first option is they were offered a buyout of their pay and benefits to the end of the budget year, which is 9/30/25. Those offers were nearly $80,000 and about $60,000 between them. The other option is to stay employed and accept the reassignment to one of the vacant captain positions, which is the position they had before they were battalion chiefs. Because we have the firefighters contract was redone last year and battalion chiefs is coming up for expiration, they actually will take a pay increase of $2,000 and $5,500 annually for the 2. So there is no reduction in pay for either member. So just to summarize, reassignment to the captain position has no detrimental fiscal impact to either battalion chief. Each shift will still have 3 supervisors, 1 assigned to each station. All of those supervise same level of incident management as the battalion chiefs. The district already has a weekly duty chief rotation with administrative chief officers responding when off duty. And during business hours, the administrative chief officers are available to respond from district. Neighboring districts send a battalion chief when their fire units are dispatched as part of the automatic aid system. Now, dispatch does not dispatch a battalion chief, but both districts send a battalion chief when their units come. And because we are only 3 units, any working structure fire is getting units from Bonita Springs or Iona McGregor through the automatic aid system. Shifts have been asking for continuity, and one operations chief overseeing all 3 shifts will facilitate that request, that need. Adding the extra firefighters will maintain the effective response force, and that 40-hour logistics position will help responders stay in district for training and emergencies. So that is the basis for making the changes.
Thanks, sir. Any
I have a
questions?
couple comments. We don't have many fires, that doesn't mean we won't. And instead of a little shack on the ground that would probably collapse pretty quickly after you show up, we're building 2, 3, 5,000 square foot houses. And other than some of them are, their pillboxes are going to be here forever. Most of them are concrete foundations. The vast majority of the houses are wood frame. So you, instead of a 12 or 1,000 foot shack, now you got a 5,000 square foot wood frame house full of stuff that's going to burn. And some houses catch fire all by themselves. And of course, kitchen fires. One thing you said, and this is probably out of context, but I'm going to say it anyway. You said for the last 3 years you've been working the system. I agree. You cannot have a captain outside and he has 1 extra guy and you have a 4,000 square foot fire in the middle of, you need a battalion chief for safety. I mean, I'll take that to my grave, to my core. Incident command. Someone has to be in charge, and everyone needs to know who that person is and basically where they are. We can't be waiting for Iona. Now, I know all our people are trained to the level of an incident commander. So you want to tell me just because he's been trained as an incident commander that person would have my experience? No, it's impossible. They wouldn't have Terry's experience or Bruce. They don't have that experience. And as I said, I see where this is going, and I just disagree. And I'll continue to disagree. Because in my soul, it's the bad decision. And you have a chance to move this place forward. Instead, we're going to have division and more turnover. And you're all hearing this. We will have more turnover. We will have fires. Hopefully nobody ever gets hurt. But it happens. It happens. So.
Any other comments, questions for Chief Worth before we proceed?
If these positions are eliminated, is that permanent, or can it be revisited a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line?
If a few years down the road I'm wrong, I'll change my mind.
One more, I'm sorry.
If a few years down the road I'm wrong for any reason, I'll change my mind. They can always be put back. One of the other things Commissioner Fleming mentioned was the other agencies around the county. So yes, it's true, none of the island agencies have battalion chiefs. But that doesn't, it's not exclusively to islands. So we have 8 different fire departments, smaller fire departments in Lee County, similar size and complexity to Fort Myers Beach, that do not have battalion chiefs. I've spoken with those agencies, and has there ever been an outcrying from labor or the union that your agencies are running an unsafe response model? And the answer universally is no, they haven't been approached. So there are 8 agencies out there doing what we've been doing a third of the time for the last 3 years. We're simply right-sizing to those agencies and their complexity. We're basically bringing our organization to what they're doing, and they're doing successfully.
Well, I would counter that by saying maybe we have too many 40-hour chiefs. The optics are terrible. We have 3 stations, we'll have 3 stations. We have enough chiefs to put an engine and a medic in service. And, I've told you this, and I'll tell you this again in person. I think what you're doing is wrong, and I think it could come back to bite us in the ass. And if it should happen, hopefully it doesn't. When somebody wants to talk to me, I'm going to say, you need to talk to the chief. And I'm not running for re-election.
I have a question. When those other 8 departments have an incident, how does that chain of command work if a mutual aid organization comes in with a battalion chief on board? Who becomes the incident commander then, and what do they do?
So typically the way it works, so let's take Sanibel or Captiva, for example. Their units will get on scene and they'll establish, incident command if there's multiple units coming. Like I said, talking with Iona McGregor, if their units are going to a fire on an automatic alarm assignment, then their battalion chief will go. They know Sanibel doesn't have a battalion chief. So they'll get on scene. Typically, you'll meet up with the incident commander. Do you want me to take command? If the incident commander has it and the units are working effectively, then usually the second command staff will take the backside of the building, and there'll be safety or operation or whatever needs, the incident commander needs. The incident commander needs to be doing something physical task, then they can hand it off to the battalion chief. So it's usually a conversation at that point.
That they have.
Yes, yeah. So, Commissioner Fleming and I have talked, and covering 57 square miles and 12 fire stations, I think there were more when you were still on the job, it was very common to get 2 or 3 units on scene before he even got there. And he mentioned, we have standing assignments, and we have very competent people. They know what to do, and they get there, they give a size up of what they have, they typically give assignments to the 2nd and 3rd units, and they go to work. So, there were many times when you got on scene with all the fires you had, and 2 or 3 trucks were there and working. Okay, and that's the same situation here. We have 3 fire engines. So if they all get there before Iona or Bonita, and they're going to go to work, it's the same as when he was on his way to a fire and arrived, and those units were already up and working because he knew what to do. And they had standing
no, it
orders.
wasn't.
Like he was saying.
Commissioner Fleming brings up he does have a
wasn't
good
the
point
same.
that these folks have the tenure, they have the knowledge, they have the years in the saddle.
Yeah.
And at some point, new people will come in or someone in our department who has trained to that level will, be in that position where they're gonna have to do the incident command with that amount of tenure. Are you confident by doing this that the folks who would be in that position now as incident commanders have that amount of tenure?
And that's a good point. It's been talked about how Chief Brunson and Chief Groh bring 50 years of experience. Having them in their old role will retain that experience. If you remember, back about a year ago, we had posted a lieutenant test and a battalion chief test. And we had candidates for the lieutenant test, and for different reasons they had to back out of the test. And it left us with nobody to fill the lieutenant role. So the battalion chief role, being a discretionary position during that time, we didn't have people to promote to work as lieutenants in order to allow a lieutenant or a captain to promote to battalion chief. Because when they promote to battalion chief, they don't work holidays. They don't have to work overtime. They don't get mandatory for overtime. So they're basically discretionary. They come to work when they want to come to work. Where having those, we had to keep those folks as company officers in order to have enough company officers. So in that time, we started developing, we talked a lot about the education that we've been doing over the last couple of years, and we created a pathway for firefighters to become company officers in order to meet those numbers. So we're at a position now where we have 4 officer vacancies, 3 from when we opened the new station and 1 current one. If our 2 battalion chiefs are 2 of those company officers, then they bring that experience to that role. If they don't take those positions, then we have to fill 4 spots. And yes, we are promoting very recently vetted acting company officers. So you bring up a good point, and it was asked earlier, well, why has that battalion chief vacancy not been filled? And it's surely because of the numbers in the agency. We've had to give time for our internal folks to develop themselves in order to work as company officers, in order to be able to have enough to allow one to promote to battalion chief. So we're getting there, but we have the potential for some very new officers to fill an officer role. They're well trained. These guys have been going through their task books, and some of the more senior officers have been like, I never learned those things when I was developing. And that's one of the big agendas that we're going to do when we get all of our staff in place, is we're going to focus on, getting all of our company officers up to whatever standard we're having for our brand new officers, just to make sure everybody knows all the nuances that might have gotten missed in the past. So, but you bring up a good point. This program will put 50 years of experience in that company officer role.
If I may speak, Ron, I want to say thank you for the incredible career that you had with the Dayton Fire Department. You gave us a pretty good history of your experience. I don't know if everybody knows, I was in the police department next door to Dayton. So I worked at the same time Ron did. same years. I had 40 years of experience. I retired as a police lieutenant. I was a watch commander for the last 8 years of my career. And I served in other roles, criminal investigations and whatnot before that. Incident command was fairly new to law enforcement. It very mature in the fire service, kind of new to law enforcement. And in the last years of my career, we all learned incident command, and we began to utilize it on incidents that required it. So we discovered whether you had supervisors, sergeants, or lieutenants on duty on a particular day. Some days the sergeant may be clear across town. It's going to take him a long time to get to this incident. These incidents unfold quickly in both law enforcement and in firefighting. So I get the importance, but you know what we discovered was, likewise, our people were trained in incident command down into the officer ranks, the senior officers in particular. And they would establish command as soon as the first officer was on the scene. And they would begin directing the other officers into the scene and manage the scene. They didn't go in there, and this is where law enforcement, and I think firefighting is now doing the same thing. You don't run into every incident. You have to assess what your situation is. If there's somebody in there that's at risk, somebody's dying, in our case, you have a hostage situation, you have shots fired, you have victims in a building that are put in danger, you're going to have to immediately respond into that incident to save lives. I think firefighting, I don't know if they're in that role yet, but that's where they should be, in my opinion. If they're, it's not worth risking people's lives to save stuff. It's worth risking people's lives to save lives. So you stand by, you establish your command position, you direct incoming traffic as it comes in, and as soon as the command system begins to arrive on scene, however long that takes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, sometimes it took longer, then they would assume that role, and then you would go assume another role. You wouldn't assume more of the officer that was in charge would assume more of a working role. And in an agency the size of Fort Myers Beach, I can see that working effectively, particularly that you're always going to have supervisors on duty, lieutenant or a captain. I know there are tremendous differences in the services, but not tremendous differences. It's kind of weird, but the work of a firefighter is a lot different than the work of a police officer. And all I can say is, when this was all explained to me, and you look at the size and complexity of this organization, and the training that we give to our people here, and the quality of the firefighters that we have on this department, I'm going to say something I've never admitted. When I became a fire commissioner, I didn't know what to expect. I came from a very professionally well-managed law enforcement agency. We had about 120 personnel. I'd heard a lot of rumors about the fire department here not being particularly professional. I was stunned at how professional this agency operates. I was stunned at the quality of the people. And I went around and told as many people as I could, don't you ever say a bad thing about the Fort Myers Beach Fire Department. Holy cow, these guys, they are good. They know their business. So, and the longer I've been here, nothing has changed in that view. You guys are very professional. So I have every confidence that most of our incidents on this island are small. They're very small, just like in law enforcement. They're very small. They don't require incident command. Somebody's in charge of the situation. One of the responders is in charge of the situation. It's a small situation. As that situation changes, yes, it's absolutely critical to get command officers in there to do it. So we're talking about how quickly can we get a chief officer to a scene. That's what this is about, in my opinion. Maybe that's a narrow-minded, myopic view from my law enforcement experience, that would be able to assume that role and be better equipped to manage that scene as that scene evolves. And it seems reasonable to me that a fire captain or a fire lieutenant can manage that scene from their position until a chief officer can arrive. And what's that timing going to be? Well, in the daytime, it's going to be right away. Doesn't matter, because we have chief officers on duty all the time. And I don't know exactly what everybody's schedule here is, but I suspect into the early evening hours, I'll be able to put a chief officer on every scene, a Fort Myers Beach chief officer on every scene quickly. We're talking about house fires and scenes that are rapidly evolving scenes that absolutely require, for the safety of the personnel on the scene and to be able to accomplish the mission, to have a chief officer there to help manage that scene. And so I would say that, the scenes that happen late at night, the scenes that happen on Saturday and Sunday, they're the ones that are going to take a little longer to get a Fort Myers Beach chief officer to the scene. But the automatic response system that fire people use, which is so different than law enforcement, they're going to bring chief officers to the scene with them. Iona's going to bring a chief officer. Bonita Springs is going to bring a chief officer. And if that is a rapidly evolving incident, they're going to have the personnel there to perform the role pretty darn quick. And in the interim, the captain on the scene, or the highest ranking firefighter on the scene, or the lieutenant on the scene, can fulfill that role until the chief officer arrives to assume it. I know this is just my perspective with my background and experience in law enforcement, working in an agency probably about the same size as the Fort Myers Beach Fire Department, a little bigger, but not much. Work in a city of about 16 square miles. We handled about 50,000 calls for service a year. So that's just my perspective on this. And this is why, while I admire Ron's experience, I know about Dayton, Ohio. It was my next door neighbor. And we got lots of incidents that would roll into our city from Dayton, Ohio. And I appreciate very much your passion, and I appreciate very much your experience in that setting. But that setting is not here. That setting, it's not apples and oranges. It's like apples and kumquats. I mean, it's very different. Dayton, Ohio is very different than Fort Myers Beach. And so I can appreciate the value added to right-size the organization a little bit. We're going to add firefighters to the field, because it's not like we're doing away with people. We're not reducing positions here. We're changing where those positions fit in and how they fit in. And I suspect if Fort Myers Beach began to change, I mean, we're in an area of development now. We don't know what's going to happen really. As it evolves, though, I have every confidence, because of the professionalism of this organization and the professionalism of your command staff, that if Fort Myers Beach needs to step back and say, we're going to have to add another level of command in order to respond effectively to these incidents, because we're having more incidents. We have more complex situations to deal with than in 2025. I have every confidence those changes would be made. The last thing any commander wants is to put their people at risk, or to have someone on their shift that they're responsible for to get hurt. So, I have a different view on this whole scenario than Ron does. I'm not passionate about it like he is, but I do understand what's going on and why, and it makes sense to me. And so I can tell you right now, I have talked to Ron about it. I've talked to the chief about it.
Well, no, wait.
Well, we haven't talked about it other than in these meetings.
We're talking about it now.
Yeah, right.
I never talked anything about anything.
Well, in these meetings, you have expressed your views. Yes.
Well, at one time in
Right.
Commissioner comments last week,
Correct.
where you had no comment at all.
Right.
And that's why this was going to be old business instead of new business.
Right.
I think you're absolutely correct. Police and fire is totally different. You cannot expect to replace a district or battalion chief with one firefighter, which then allows a captain or lieutenant to be the incident commander. It doesn't work that way. And yeah, maybe we'll never have another fire. I wouldn't bet on it. but we will have fires. And it won't be a 800 square foot shack. It's going to be a 5,000 square foot house with God knows how many people you can jam in there. But thank you for your input, and thank you for your compliments to me.
Commissioner,
And with that, I have to, I'll be good.
You have to take one of those too?
Yes, I do.
Can we take a break?
I almost said Commissioner Kieran.
Could we take a quick?
A quick 5 minutes?
Yeah,
for,
5-minute break.
Personal relief?
Yes.
Yes.
It would be.
Thank
We'll
you.
re-adjourn at 6:45.
15.
There you go.
Oh,
All right, it's 6:47. I'd like to call the meeting back to order, and we'll continue with our discussion.
$24. A glass of wine. One glass of wine.
We left off with commissioner comments, questions. Is there anything further from my right?
Just, it's a serious consideration. I appreciate, Ron, thank you for sharing all of your insight about that, and I take what you said very, very seriously, and, I have not served in the fire service, and Jim, thank you for your insight with, the police. I've not had the opportunity to serve for law enforcement, and I know, John, you come from a military background, so thank you for that, and I have not served military either, so I do lean on your thoughts and opinions and concerns and comments quite heavily when we talk about things like this, because you've done it, and that does mean a lot to me. But I also lean heavily on my corporate background, which is financial and things that make sense with structure and people. And my biggest concern is always, and Chief Worth and I have had this conversation a lot, about the individuals themselves. So that's, I want to make sure that individuals aren't being harmed and aren't being, I don't want to say the word disenfranchised, but aren't being taken care of appropriately. And so, we have a lot of conversation that safety is imperative to me. The quality of the education and the training, the conditions that they're living and working in our buildings. And I think we've worked hard as a group and as a department to give these folks every tool, every training, and trying to give them and get them the best equipment that's out there, better than the standards. And they do a great job. And I fully trust and believe in each and every one of them. I've seen them at work, and the professionalism, like you said, is bar none. And I feel safe in my community, and I feel safe knowing that when I make that call, we have people coming who can take care of us and take care of our guests and our business owners and our residents. So I don't take any of this lightly, and I need them all to know that. This is good discussion, but it's also what's happening in our community is we've never seen anything like this. And I see it from a lot of different hats that I wear. And we have things going on right now economically that are concerning to me, incredibly concerning, with reduction of home prices and valuations going down, and that's going to affect us next year and the year following that in our tax revenues. We need to be looking at that, because it's all well and good to say we have a budget of X, but if in 2 years our budget is cut by 10, 20%, whatever it might be, we need to adjust for that. But I'm not going to do it at the expense of our people. So that to me are the things that really mean a lot to me, and again, it comes back to making sure that individuals remain whole, because that's what I'm good at looking at. So I lean on you guys to look at the structure stuff and the command incident command position and how that works. So thank you again for all of your insight on that.
Thank you. I guess I'll say a few words. First and foremost, something I've experienced in military and law enforcement is a title doesn't make you a leader. It has nothing to do with what you're called on your name tag or what's on your shirt. It's your actions, it's your abilities. Most of us up here have gone through restructuring, job changes, mergers. I was telling Chief Worth this morning that I watched a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation become a financial officer. And you think, well, that's not a big deal. Well, in the salary world, at that level, it's an enormous deal. It still didn't suffer, but in his world, it's a different animal. But it didn't make him a different leader. He still had the respect of the people underneath him. We had 60,000 employees. I can tell you the man had respect up and down, as well as the new leadership that came in. Never once did we hesitate. And we valued our jobs. We appreciated what we did. We were a major defense contractor. We had to abide by rules that are unimaginable at this government level when it comes to accounting for people and time and assets, dealing with foreign customers. I mean, all the complexities of international business. But I can tell you, everywhere I've been in my life, some of the best leaders were some of the most junior people by rank. Had nothing to do. I worked with on the police department. Guy was a 20-year patrolman, which you think, not a big deal. Well, he had also been an air marshal. He had been a park ranger. This was his third or fourth career at this point. But he was a great leader, even though he was just a patrolman. His experience spanned things, for the area around St. Louis that we couldn't imagine. He'd worked in New York. He'd worked as a park ranger in the Everglades. He'd had all the extremes in between. And that is valuable leadership. He wasn't a sergeant, he wasn't a corporal, didn't want to be. But he was still a leader, and he was still a good coworker, and somebody that always had your back. When the chief and I first started talking about this subject, my concern, like Jackie's, was, what's our impact to the employees, to our people who've given their time and effort to the organization? Most of it is, it's kind of a punch in the gut initially because it's a change in your title. It doesn't change your experience. It doesn't negatively impact your pay and benefits. Most of all, through Chief Worth's leadership and making this hard decision. And believe me, it's a hard one. It's not an off-the-cuff thing that's just, not thought out, not planned. It's hard. It's one of those things. Our ultimate responsibility is to our neighbors. We are one of the largest items on the tax bill every year. And if I had to explain to my neighbor why we're looking at positions and changing positions, there's only one reason: to streamline the organization, to make it more effective, to make it better. It's not personal, it's business, period. If it were personal, it'd be a different, we would jump up and down screaming, believe me, but it's not. It makes good business sense with what's been brought to us. It took me a little bit to, fully comprehend and get on board with it, and that was strictly out of concern for the individuals. Are they taken care of? Are they given opportunities? And this is a hard change. The tradition in public service, whether it's military, law enforcement, fire, any of these public responsibility jobs, they're all based on traditions, and it's hard to go against tradition, and that's what we're dealing with here. But it's doable. Other places have done it. I have full faith in our crews and our leadership up and down, lieutenants, captains, guys driving the truck, riding the ambulance, whatever they're doing. I have never doubted their ability to do their job when they show up on scene. It's something that the community appreciates, and they're passionate about it. The biggest concerns, and it's, to me, very disappointing the way this was publicized, was you're disbanding the fire department, you're eliminating people. And that's not the case. Whoever was kind enough to leave me a door hanger yesterday to highlight that, I'll thank them. I'll take a look at my Ring camera and thank them personally. The panic that can create is irresponsible. And I shame the district, the Union District, for allowing this to happen. Because to scare our residents into thinking they're not going to have service, that they're going to have unqualified people that don't know how to do their jobs, is wrong. And I completely I'm infuriated with it. It's the wrong approach. This is a business decision. We should coordinate our efforts and act like adults and talk this out, not threaten, not come to the public and say you're not going to have an answer to your call for service because we don't have a battalion chief. But that same guy's on the truck, by the way, that has that experience. Makes no sense to me. So that's where we're at now. Unless there's further comment or question from the board, I would ask if there is a motion to be made.
Chairman, were you going to let us talk before you made a...
Yes, sir. Once we get through the process here, the motion has to be made, and then it's discussed between us, and then we'll have public comment.
Before we vote.
Correct. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion
For?
to keep the battalion chiefs in place.
So a yay vote would be to keep the battalion chiefs as existing, going against Chief Worth's decisions.
Correct.
Is there a second? Second doesn't mean we agree, it just means we discuss it. I'll second it. And we'll go there. So further discussion between us. Jim?
Well, I think we've talked it out a lot. And I understand where Ron's coming from. I see the business side of this as you do. I spent a lot of time with the chief discussing the impact this would have on the employees involved. And I at the risk of sharing in confidence, I counseled him to make sure that any action is taken here does not impact in a negative way financially the employees involved. They have shared, they have given their lives here to this organization and to the beach. And we have to make sure that they are taken care of. And that was my primary number one counsel to him. The rest of this is managing the business, as you said.
I agree with Jim that my primary concern was the individuals involved and that they would be made whole, that they were not going to lose financially in this. I've gone through changes in corporate environments where I've been outsized, downsized, reorganized over and over and over, and they did not have near the amount of consideration for their individuals that we're putting forward right now. These folks, I want them to not lose their standard of living, and I want them to not lose a position within the organization. And I don't want to lose their knowledge base and their history and the fact that they can coach and still teach the other teammates around them and share that experience. That's really important to me. So if Chief, if you had come to me and said, they're gone, that would never have happened.
Yep.
I would never vote for that.
Yep.
And the fact that you've given options and you've tried to be transparent with them, I appreciate, and that was one of my asks of you, to give them options and to give them choices so they don't feel like they're backed in a corner. I too don't believe that a title makes the person. I think the person's actions speak louder than their words, and I think there's a lot to be learned from the individuals still, and I think they have knowledge they can share with the rest of the team as they do every day. The second concern I had was arriving at a fire that we were not going to be short of individuals who knew how to take control of the situation, the incident command, and then move that forward. And you have assured me, Chief, that that will not be the case. Obviously, should this continue forward and it gets approved with your plan, don't think we won't be watching to make sure that what you told us is true. And in fact, when we do have our next incident, that it's being handled appropriately. I can bet my bottom dollar that every one of us is going to be not only asking you, but asking folks who were there to see what their thoughts were on the process. And if it isn't what we think it is going to be or what we were told, I wouldn't have a problem making a change back to something more like where we were to try to address any concerns. So that's how I feel.
Thank you. Karen?
I concur with what's been said. The affected individuals are being taken care of. They don't lose any pay or benefits. Again, leadership is not in the title on your name badge. I do take, I don't think comfort's the right word, but knowing that we can address this sometime in the future, again, if it doesn't work out like we intended to. I think that's ultimately, for me, we can always come back to it. So, again, thank you to Ron for your commitment, your dedication, your career. Jim, you too as well, and John as well. So that's kind of where I stand.
Jim, anything further? Nope. Ron, would you like to add anything?
I've said enough.
All right, thank you. I think that's a first. I'll just add that, again, that this is not a light decision the chief made. He's our chief, period. And everything he's doing is for the betterment of the organization and the responsibility to the taxpayers, who, they're our bosses, period. It's not us. We're each 20% of decision-making, but the people who put us here trusted us with doing the right thing, the best thing for them with their money. And that's what we have to do. That's where we'll go. So if there's no further questions from the board or input, Chief, anything you'd like to add before we go to public comment? Public comment, now open. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Terry, appreciate it.
So once again, Terry Brunson, District 15. I want to clear up a couple misconceptions that the chief just put out and stuff. So that everybody knows and stuff, I am impacted with my pay and benefits, myself and Chief Grow. I'm losing vacation time. I'm being bumped down, demoted. I'm losing 2 hours a month. That's 2 hours a month, same with Chief Grow. We're losing it, gone. Longevity pay, gone. So if I don't get a check starting from last October until now, and I don't get that put to me, I lost it. That's a pay cut. So I get bumped down, I get demoted, I took a pay cut. Didn't explain that to you, did he? He didn't put that in his slides or anything. So just throw that out there. And to address another thing about the battalion chiefs. That man back there in the corner has been on a list for 3 years to promote the battalion chief. No test. And the union commissioner that you're saying that, you know, it's so bad, over and over and over again, sending himself to ask him to please test, please test. When are we going to test? He doesn't even have the decency to respond back. I'm pretty sure it's stuff that I read our policy is stuff that within 2 hours of coming on duty, I got to check my email and respond. But the fire chief, different story. This whole vote of no confidence and stuff, I know, yeah, it comes as a big shock and stuff, but the problem is we don't get anywhere talking with our staff. This is our last option. It's coming to you and telling you our problems. Because you only hear one side of everything that goes on in this department. Please take what we're saying serious. You know, I don't want to, look, you bump me down, whatever, I'm a captain. We get a fire, I'm going in the fire with my 2 guys. I don't know what's going on outside. I'm not watching the structure, but I don't want somebody calling my freaking family and telling them that the damn thing fell in on me because nobody was outside watching. We plan for what's gonna happen, not ifs, gambles. You know, it's a national standard to have an incident commander in place. Every department strives to have an incident commander in place. Why are we going backwards? After Ian, this entire island is going to change. It's going to be like a Miami Beach within the next 15 years. We had a 2-alarm fire. That man right there, acting lieutenant, acting. Guess what? He's been acting for years. No promotion. No promotions. But he, chief sit here and say that, oh, no, we had nobody qualified. This man, I ran his hours. I can't even tell you how many hours he's been in the acting lieutenant position. No test. Now, I'm sorry, granted, he had to pull out the last test because of his father. He had issues with his father. So, you're getting one side of the story. I implore you, please ask questions. I'm available, Darwin's available, anybody's available. But I don't want something bad to happen because of a bad decision. We had a 2-alarm fire at the south end of the island of a high-rise. It's gonna happen again. And it was just smoke in the elevator. We had 2 alarms. We had people everywhere. So what then? What if it's at 2 o'clock in the morning? Chief Armiger's on vacation. I mean, it's gonna hang out and wait for the next guy to come? And to tell you a little bit about the chiefs that are coming from the other districts. Okay, we're the only ones not playing ball with everybody else now. Okay, we don't respond to brush fires anymore. We don't do anything with the county. Our surface water rescue program's down the drain. Hope nobody drowns, and we have to go out and swim out and get them. They're only coming if they don't have an incident. So 3 o'clock in the morning, if they're running a structure fire in their district, you think they're going to stop and come and help us? No, because it's our responsibility to take care of our residents, us, not other districts. Now, I really hate the fire service is looking at this like a business. It's like, you know, it's like, oh, we'll move the money here and there, and stuff like that. You're forgetting about the primary reason I think that all of you became commissioners is to help the residents of Fort Myers Beach and the visitors. We have 1.5 million visitors a year to this beach. Captiva? No. Pine Island? Don't think so. Now, to take and compare us to those islands is ludicrous. That's all I got.
Thank you. Any further public comment on the topic?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Commissioners. Chief Tom Edge, retired. First thing I would like to do is clarify the record. It was Chief Stephen Marcus, a respected fire chief from the Fort Myers Beach Fire Department, who passed away, not from Fort Myers. In my history here, there's only been 2 letters of no confidence for the fire chief. This is the second one. The first one was John McCarthy way back in the day. But I'm here to talk about the battalion chief as not as an incident commander, but as a shift commander. The guy who coordinates 3 stations, gets everybody on the same page, answers to the district chief, makes sure everything functions. He's here 24/7, okay? The administrative folks are here from 8 to 4, going on the weekends and going on holidays. Emergencies don't just happen, you know, from 8 to 4. Well, we're out for lunch. It doesn't work like that. To compare cops and the fire service, it's all wrong. Everything happens, whether the incident's going to go good or bad, it's going to happen in the first few minutes. And to count on outside neighbors is really disappointing. For everything that we've worked for in this organization, I've been here for 35 years, when we were volunteers, when we had chiefs who lived in the district. I don't know where your chiefs live at now, but I'm sure they're not going to be here promptly on a Sunday afternoon. You know, that stuff happens. So the safety for these men and women is really important. And it's your job to look out for them. And it's your job to ask questions. You need to do that. You've heard there's a letter of no confidence here. It's not just because of the battalion chiefs. It's a larger issue than that. There's a problem. You need to ask questions and find out what's going on. Thank you for your time. I hope you do the right thing.
Any further public comment? Seeing none. Further discussion, questions? So the vote is to retain the battalion chief position. I'm going to do this roll call so we're all on record individually. Chief Fleming.
Yes.
Chief Ed. Commissioner Nickel.
No.
Commissioner Farrell.
No.
Commissioner Lezak.
No.
I also vote no. The motion carries 4-1. Thank you. All right, brings us to Fire Chief remarks. Chief Worth.
Thank you. You were right. This is a very hard decision. I know this agency has professional people, qualified people. We see it every day when they're running calls. I know the guys are upset right now. But at the end of the day, I believe this is the right move for the organization moving forward. I appreciate your support as we make very hard decisions. So I'd also like to say, just as a reminder, passing of Chief Marcus, that funeral is Saturday for anybody who doesn't know. Just funeral home, And we will be there, we'll have a unit there, our staff will be there, representing the district, making sure the family is taken care of.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Salzman, anything to report, comment?
The only comments I would make is, number one, I really appreciate the way the commission handled this matter. I think it's always difficult, and the fact that everybody discussed it, you were thoughtful. When I handle any of these grievances or litigation, it's always important to have a good record. We look at competent, substantial evidence to support positions. It's not really even the ultimate decision one way or the other. It's just that you considered those things. And I think that was clear that this board did that. And I really appreciate that as a lawyer looking at this. We do have some grievances that are, or grievance that's out there we're dealing with accordingly. And we'll keep you posted on where we are with those things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time and driving down as always. It's going to be a long night, I guess. Commissioner Farrell, would you like to add anything on your commissioner comments?
I think we covered just about everything that could be covered. It's a tough meeting and some tough decisions to be made, but I think we made the right one. And as I said earlier, I think knowing that this can always be revisited if it needs to be, I think it makes that a better decision right now. So, let it be.
First of all, condolences to Chief Marcus's family, friends, and obviously our department and the folks that knew him. Unfortunately, I cannot make Saturday, but I will, we will be there in spirit, and I appreciate the folks in the district going to represent us at his service. Secondly, there's a couple of questions or comments that did come up in public comment, so I would like to sit with you, Chief, not after this meeting, but in the next few days, and just run those past you with some thoughts and some considerations that kind of just have gone through my head because of this process. This stuff's never easy.
No, I wanted
I've
to
been
stand.
been in their shoes. I've been in their shoes, and it's uncomfortable, and it doesn't feel good, and it hurts. And the biggest thing, like I said, I want to make sure that we keep them whole, we keep the knowledge base and the history on the island, and I want the option that if this is not working, that we can go back and take a look. There's always other ways that we can answer this and make it right. And you have assured me that incident command will not be not happening at an incident. And so with the comment that everybody's going to be inside and nobody is outside taking control, I don't believe that's going to happen. I think there are people out there who can manage it, and no one's going to let our folks go in a building without someone outside managing the scene. So that's unfortunate, but good point is made. We need to make sure that the structure you're putting in place is going to work. So fiscally, it's the right thing to do, the structure of the department, and I think we're in for some tough times in the next couple of years financially. So the last thing I want to do is be down the road and have to lay people off. I don't want to put ourselves in that position. So that's kind of where my mind is. And our duty is to our neighbors, yes, our neighbors' safety, but also our neighbors as taxpayers, because that's what we're up here to do. We're not here to manage the hiring and firing process of the internal operations of the department. We're here to manage the budget, to hire and fire the chief, and to set the middle and to set the budget. So that's what we're here to do.
Thank you. Commissioner Nickel.
A challenging day today. None of this is easy, and I've been through, when I was working, we went through a couple of these, and I want to say publicly, I appreciate the firefighters that were here. Their viewpoint is well taken. I understand it, and I appreciate really their professionalism and the manner in which they conducted themselves tonight, because I know there's a lot of passion here. But
I agree.
as Jackie said, this is not easy, but it's I think we have a duty to our neighbors to make sure, A, that they're safely taken care of, and B, that we're managing things fiscally for them. That's what they put us here for.
Ron, anything further, sir?
I stand by my position that I've stated all evening. Thank you for the second. We made a decision, we're going to move forward, and that's that.
I concur, and you know, we've all said it, and I'll say it again. I appreciate the conversation we all had and the experiences that were shared. You know, and that's kind of what makes us, I think, a unique board, at least in my mind. I don't see a lot of town councils or other district boards running with a good open communication without screaming and fist pounding, and other than a few occasional outbursts from the gallery. And those calm down and reassure people that, and it's, again, it's a passionate subject, and
It is.
you're changing tradition, you're changing, you know, one of my pet peeves in life is because it's always been done that way. And that's, to me, a bad excuse. You know, prove to me that it's better or worse, and you know, we'll make a good decision from there. And I think that's where we came tonight. I was disappointed in the hangar, and I meant what I said. I think it scared some folks into thinking we were doing something other than what we actually were, and that's not the case. So I think a good PR cleanup on the district side to help correct that information chief might be in order. Social media and you know, maybe a web post, you know, stating this is where we're at no time where any of your services, safety, or number of firefighters that we employed actually went up, not went down. So I think it's important for our neighbors to know that, you know, their services is just the same, if not better, than it was past this decision. So again, thank everybody. Thank you, Mr. Salzman, again for driving down, and I know it's a couple hours and hopefully an uneventful road trip for you to go back. The services on Saturday, please give the board's condolences to the family. And I didn't know him personally, but knew had a nice, positive reputation with folks here on the beach. And, those folks are getting harder to find these days. The good ones will be missed.
Is it appropriate to send something from the board?
We certainly could.
Maybe whatever, they have a charity, they want a donation or flowers or
They do.
whatever.
In lieu of donations, they've asked for Tunnels to Towers.
I'm sorry?
Tunnels to Towers, it's a foundation that helps
Okay.
fallen
Well,
If you guys would be
families.
willing, I think I would like to
Yeah, certainly.
suggest that we send something from the board.
Do we have to vote on that, or is it?
We do not. We'll just make it happen. That's not
Thank you.
a voting item. That's an easy one. Yeah, and again, it's tough to close because it was a tough night, and I appreciate everybody's patience. We've gone longer than we have in a long time, for good reason. And we voted no confidence. I don't know what to say. It doesn't reflect my feeling in our leadership, in the command staff. I have complete confidence that the right things are being done for the right reasons, and it's everybody's responsibility down the chain to get on board with the program and pull up those bootstraps and do what you're asked to do. That's all of our jobs in life. Unless there's anything else. Going once, going twice. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.